Thank you very much. We'll now call to order the Committee on Finance with regard to Bill 181103. We will ask the clerk to read the title of the bill, and before she does, let me note that we have a quorum for our finance hearing. To my left is Councilwoman Cindy Bass. We thank her for recessing for this short hearing, and we will try to move expeditiously and quickly so that she may go back to her hearing. To her left, Councilwoman Blondell Reynolds Brown. To my right, Councilman Mark Squilla, Councilman Bill Greenlee. Thank you for giving us a quorum. Councilman Dom, and Councilman O is around somewhere as well. So thank you very much. Will the clerk please read the title of the bill?
181103, an ordinance amending Chapter 19-3900 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Tax Exemptions for Longtime Owner Occupants of Residential Properties to revise the standards for eligibility and the benefit determination under certain terms and conditions.
Thank you very much. We will call on Frank Breslin, Revenue Commissioner, to identify himself and begin his testimony.
Good afternoon, Chairwoman Blackwell and members of the Committee on Finance. I am Revenue Commissioner and Chief Collections Officer Frank Breslin. Thank you for the opportunity to testify today on Bill number 181103. The bill amends Chapter 19-3900 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Tax Exemptions for Longtime Owner Occupants of Residential Properties. It reduces the amount of assessment increase necessary for a property to be eligible for the program, changes the rule for treatment of equitable owners, and changes the timing of receipts of benefits and deadline for tax year 2019. The administration, like council, is committed to helping all homeowners pay their real estate taxes, particularly our most vulnerable Philadelphians who may not have the funds due to either a change in financial circumstances or the amount of their bill. In the past year, City Council has significantly expanded the safety net for homeowners by increasing the homestead exemption discount to up to $559 per year, up from up to $419, and changing the UPA, the Owner-Occupied Payment Agreement program, to allow low-income homeowners to pay a fixed amount based on their income for their current year tax bill each month, even if it doesn't cover the total due. We expect later this week, Council will grant senior citizens more time to apply for the Senior Citizen Tax Freeze Program to lock their bills in at 2018 levels for as long as they live in their homes. And with a change in state law increasing the income limits for that program, even more seniors can take advantage this year. The administration has been enthusiastic and engaged partner with Council to design and implement these program expansions. The Department of Revenue, along with community stakeholders, neighborhood leaders, and elected officials, have been increasing their efforts to get people enrolled. So far, in fiscal year 2019, revenue representatives have attended 114 community events, published over a dozen social media posts, performed door-to-door, co-hosted pop-up events with council members to enroll homeowners on the spot, held workshops and trainings, and distributed informational materials to hundreds of registered community organizations. While the administration shares the sponsor's core objectives to help homeowners who can't afford an increase in real estate taxes on their home, and supports amendments to the bill that maintain access to the program for equitable owners, the administration does not support Bill 181103 due to the inequities that it will create and the cost to the city and school district. For those that are eligible now or would become eligible, LOOP is a tremendous benefit. It locks in their assessment upon entering the program at a fixed amount equal to or less than their market value that year. If tax rates stay the same, their bill will never go up. And when tax rates have changed historically, the percentage increase has typically been in the single digits. As the market value of their home grows over time, the value of the benefit grows. When LOOP was created, it was against the backdrop of the Actual Value Initiative, the first citywide reassessment in decades, and more than 140,000 residential properties tripled in value. With the introduction of the homestead and a dramatic reduction in rates, 70% of residential bills stayed the same or went down. For the other 30%, Loop provided relief to a subset of those whose bills went up. Property owners with incomes that were up to 150% of area median income, $91,800 for a single person this year, and whose properties had been owner-occupied for at least 10 years and had never received a tax abatement. Today, homeowners with Loop pay on average $458 less than homeowners with Homestead. Last year, the gap was $300. Over time, this difference will continue to grow if the cap on the total program cost is raised. With this expansion of Loop, again, a select group of homeowners will receive a deep discount. Expanding Loop will increase inequities in our real estate tax system, with families in very similar circumstances facing vastly different property tax bills. Households with very different abilities to pay and home values may pay the same amount. Inequality reduces people's confidence in the tax system. That lack of confidence can translate into reduced trust in government and willingness to pay. Last year, we achieved the highest collection rate for real estate taxes on record at 96.1%. And this success, touted in a report released by Pew last week, was enabled by the robust safety net and effective collection tools made possible by this council. With more Philadelphians than ever able to afford and willing to pay their property tax bills, we have concerns about programs that could undermine people's faith in the fairness of the bill they receive. The administration has additional concerns about specific provisions in the bill. The requirement that new applicants must pay 2019 in full and not receive the discount until the following year is concerning. People who truly don't have the means to pay will be denied access to the program, while those that can afford their new higher tax bill will be the only ones to receive a break. Further, the expansion of the $20 million cap to $30 million will put financial resources away from the city and school district to a relatively small share of homeowners. We would hope that the Revenue Commissioner would be granted discretion to provide relief in tax year 2019 when warranted. We look forward to continuing these conversations and working with City Council to develop an alternative approach to help all Philadelphian homeowners who want to pay their property tax bill but don't have the means to do so. Thank you for the opportunity to testify, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Councilman Squilla?
Thank you, and thank you so much for your testimony, and revenue for, really, since I've been here, has improved dramatically as far as collection and working with council. We really appreciate the efforts that have gone in there. Everybody says everybody should pay their fair share, and that revenue is making sure people do that, so we much appreciate it.
Thank you.
On the other note, a lot of these safeguards that are put in place by council is not because of revenue, but because of how the assessments have been put in place. OPA assessments, if you looked at the people on Loop, out of the 1,600 people that are in there now, the average increase in assessment for just those properties is 40% in 1 year. That's astronomical. So we have a challenge with OPA to be able to say, all right, those values of those properties went up 40% in 1 year. Either one thing, the program is great because that means they're in gentrified areas and those properties actually did go up 40% a year, which I don't believe they did. But the other issue is that when you have those gigantic increases, these folks cannot afford to pay. So council is then forced to look at safeguards to be able to put things in place to try to help our long-term residents, to help all residents of the city of Philadelphia. It's been brought to our attention. We tried and looked at capping assessments that they couldn't go up more than 10, 15, 20% a year. Said it's unconstitutional because of the uniformity clause. We wouldn't be able to do things. But when we can't put those protections in place and OPA is allowed to go in there and increase these assessments astronomically, council's sort of left with trying to be reactionary, and instead of being proactive and maybe capping it, We have to react to these large increases when we see them and try to come up with additional safeguards. Now, I know that's not revenue's problem. Your problem is how do you maintain the stuff we put in place? How do we then, if once we reach our cap, how do we then disseminate the rest of that value through all the people that are in the Loop program? I really much appreciate people be able to migrate from the Loop program if they're eligible for the senior freeze. This year, I believe, in the Loop program, increased in value, even though there's less people in it than were in it before. But I think this year we increased the subsidy over $7 million because of the assessment increase just on those 1,500 people. What's going to happen next year and the year after that when the CAM assistant comes in and other assessment values are going to start going up. So we see this as a challenge for us, but we're sort of forced to put some of these things into play. And I know it makes it a challenge for the administration to then be able to monitor and then say, we're losing money, the city's losing some money, the school district's losing some money. But because of the position we're being put in by OPA and the inaccuracy of assessments, it's kind of hard for us not to do something about it. And do you see that any way that we could cap assessments at a certain rate so that we would never have these large assessments? People wouldn't be trying to get into another safeguard program.
Yeah, I don't know. I've heard that may not be legal, but that's a little out of my purview. I think back to your comments, one of our main concerns is that we're talking about people with the inability to pay, and this bill would allow people who can afford to pay the 2019 to get into the program because they have to pay up front, but those that cannot would not be able to get into the program, and we're concerned with the inequalities that will create.
Well, maybe we could work with you on that.
Sure.
As this bill comes out, maybe there's an UPA way to get into a payment plan so you're still in compliant. So if you get into an UPA plan and become compliant, and then therefore, even though you couldn't pay the whole amount, you're not thrown out of the program. That's something I think council and administration can work together to come up with a plan to do that. But we wouldn't be having these problems if we could fix how these assessments are skyrocketing. And I guess, Rob, I don't know if you could answer the question about, I know I think Councilwoman Verna tried to do a cap back in the 90s. What is it that we could do to protect our residents from these large increases in assessments?
Yeah, so I do think, and it's always dangerous if Rob
Identify-
Dubo, Finance Director. It's always dangerous if I try to play a lawyer, but I do think that the cap violates the uniformity clause, so I think that we can't cap it. We have tried to put in a number of things to protect homeowners. When we did the homestead, we have the UPA program, we have the senior citizen tax freeze, we have the existing loop. So there are a number of things, and there's also the appeal process if people think that their assessments were wrong, but the cap is something we can't do.
But if you notice, if you're in loop, and I think there was about 70 people who appealed even though they were in loop. If you're in loop and you know that your assessment, you're going to pay the same value that you did the year before there was assessment change, you're not going to go appeal it, right? So all those people's assessments that went up 40%, they're saying, well, I'm still paying my same tax value, so I'm not going to appeal it and go through that aggravating trial to deal with that. So our numbers are going to be inflated in the books to say that all these people are using up the cap dollars in our loop program because they're never going to appeal these large assessments that may not even be accurate. So can the city appeal this and say these OPA numbers, to go up for those 1,500 properties to go up 40%? Can we appeal it to try to protect and lower our cap so it doesn't hurt our budget in the future?
We'd have to look into that. I understand the question. We can look into that question.
Because we need to protect ourselves and those folks. If the city's going to be the one losing out on the dollars and the school district will be the one losing out on the dollars. So we need to be able to go in and say, these assessments are wrong, we could go in and appeal them, and there's no way that those 1,500 houses, all of them went up, on average, 40% or over 40%. Thank you.
Before you respond, let me note that Sherelle Parker, member of the committee, is present. Thank you. That means that our entire committee is present. We thank you. Councilman Dom.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Good afternoon.
We also note, if I may, excuse me, thank you, Councilman Kenyatta Johnson, for being here.
I have a question for you, just some details. Right now, how many people are actually in the LOOP program?
Approximately 16,000 people are in Loop.
16,000? And from my recollection, do we have about 580,000 tax bills or tax parcels, roughly?
Yes.
Okay. And just so I understand this, right now, we allocated 20 million towards the LOOP program, and we're looking to raise it to 25, but in order to do that, 2020 it'll go to 30 million because you can't do it in 19. Is that what's going on?
That's our understanding of the legislation.
Okay. And do you think that this is a major help in the areas where we have gentrification issues?
Well, I think, I would say that the concern I have is that this really creates inequities and, what the downstream, down years ramifications, they only get greater, right, as the difference between what people are paying increases. So we'll kind of get back to a situation where you have similar properties on a block, people in similar situations, and very different tax bills. And as I said in my testimony, that part of that inequality starts to erode confidence in the system. So that's the concern.
And to qualify for LOOP, how does somebody go about qualifying, and how long does that qualification last for?
Okay, so to qualify, you had to be in the property for more than 10 years. It has to be your residence, and you have to be at or below 150% of area median income. And then once you're in the program, as long as your income stays the same, as long as you reside there, you have LOOP.
And how do we verify the income stays the same?
Well, a person would have to disclose to us that their income has increased and take themselves out of the program. In addition, we have means of doing compliance, so we can do some income verification, but we do not do, the entire 16,000 enrollees on an annual basis.
Point of information?
Point of information, Councilman
Thank you,
Stroh.
Madam Chair. Also, to be part of the LOOP program, your assessment at that time had to triple.
Yes, I'm sorry, I failed to say that. Yes.
300% in 1 year in order to be eligible for that LOOP program.
Thank you for that. I missed one of the most important elements. At that time, your property value, the original LOOP provision was 300%, so your assessment had to triple, and under this proposed, it would be 150%. So again, there's I think it creates some inequities there, where now it's a much lower standard to get into LOOP and locks you in at a lower percentage of your assessed value compared to people that were originally in LOOP. So I think you're starting to get categories of, you have people that may not have been qualified for LOOP because they were in a house for 9.5 years, not 10 years. So. But those at 10 years got in because their property tripled, and they locked in at that level. Now you're going to have people getting in at 150%, so a much lower standard, and they're in forever. Originally it was 10 years, so kind of the inequities kind of got smoothed with time. After 10 years, everybody was back on the same playing field. But now it goes on forever, so you start to get people that were very close to qualifying for LOOP, whether that was based on income or years of residency, but didn't get in. You have people that did get in under the 300%. Now you're going to have people that are getting in under the 150%.
So I'm trying to understand, Commissioner, are you thinking that UPA is a better program than LOOP?
That UPA? Well, UPA is for delinquent taxpayers. I mean, UPA is a tremendous program. it's a little difficult to compare the two because the provisions are very, very different. But UPA, is a tremendous program, and I talked about our collection rate at 96.1%. Part of the reason for that, I think, is we've been talking about people paying their fair share, and that UPA allows people to become compliant and pay a bill that they can afford.
So right now, just so I'm clear on this, we've allocated $20 million for the LOOP program. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And has all of that been utilized?
No. We have not hit the cap in previous years.
Where are we at roughly compared in the 20 million category? Are we at 18, 15?
Yes. But we anticipate hitting the cap this year.
We will, okay. And so what we're talking about is just increasing this generally to 25 million. Is that basically what this bill is for?
That's what the bill does.
And because of the way the bill's written, we have to go to nothing in 19 and 30 and 20, then come back to 25?
Yeah, it increases the cap and decreases the increase in your assessment that makes you eligible for it. So it does both those things.
But, so how do you handle if we have more people applying than money available? How are we going to handle that?
If we would exceed the cap, then we would have to prorate everyone's relief.
Okay.
So, which would be, we've never had to do it. That would be a big project for the department to take on. And then also we would have to figure out how that happens. Do people get a supplemental bill later in the year for the amount of loop that basically has to be pulled back?
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Thank you, Madam Chairwoman.
Councilman Kenyatta Johnson.
Yeah, I just had one question to Mr. DeBoe, and I was listening to the earlier testimony. So we can't do a cap because of the uniformity clause. So just based upon the report, I know our city council did a report of the property assessments over the last 2 years, several years, and also the administration did. So one, would the city lobby our legislators in Harrisburg to focus on the cap between now and this next administration cycle?
I owe you an answer on that one. You asked that at the last hearing. Sorry, I need to.
So would y'all advocate, because California has a cap on how much the tax can go. I think one of my colleagues also have a bill on how, and it shouldn't matter if he's Democrat or Republican to actually consider that bill, but there is a bill that focuses on a cap on assessments. So that's something that should be up for discussion. And the other part is, Councilman Squilla talked about how our report says there's a flaw in the property assessment process, right? So if there's a flaw, how come we can't just freeze all assessments? I mean, if we're not agreeing with how we're going to forward with Loop, and we have to look at the recommendations from the administration, which you don't agree with, how come the process just can't be frozen until things get addressed?
We have gone in a kind of different...
Not trending, though, but frozen.
Yeah, and one of the reason that we wanted to go with trending rather than freezing is that if we freeze when we actually get back to doing assessments, and we've gone 2 or 3 years without assessments, then people will get another shock, and we want to avoid that.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Sure.
Further questions? Councilman Squilla?
Yes, and thank you. And Rob, I'd like to see if you could get that information to the chair to see if we could appeal these, because that would help lower those assessments, and therefore we would then be below the cap and we wouldn't be losing additional dollars or trying to come up with ways to having to increase it. I think if we could do that and work together on this and figure out a way, hopefully that'll also help with uniformity in the future for some people who are assessed or are appealing them and some people aren't. We're ending up with levels like this.
Understood.
Thank you.
Councilman Dom?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I have a question that maybe we'll deal with in a few years, whatever, but if we pass this or whatever happens and we get to the cap, if we have to go further down the road, would it be feasible, this is just a question I want to ask, would it be feasible to, when you increase from 25 to the next level, wherever that gets to, could we provide homeowners who qualify with either an interest-free loan that goes against their account that they don't have to pay until they actually sell the property. So we're helping them stay in the home. The property went up in value. The city's not losing its core of taxes, and it'll get paid when the property transfers.
I don't know about a loan, but I would say we can look back to the deferral program, which essentially accomplishes that, which when your property value goes above a certain amount, you pay the lower amount and basically freeze the increase until the time that you sell the property, and then there's an interest rate. So there is something within the law that basically accomplishes that. It may need to be reviewed and updated to be more effective, because it's been in the law and hasn't been very well utilized.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
Councilman Johnson? Any other questions for this witness? Thank you both
Thank you.
very much. Panel 2, Montgomery Wilson, Community Legal Services, and then 3 seniors, Linda Gerald, Vincent Erlin, and Madeline Shikumba.
So you can take this chair. Take this one. What's your name?
Ms. Gerald, where are you?
Montgomery Wilson, Linda, Joe.
We welcome you all, and thank you for being here.
Thank you, Council.
Feel free to come forward if you are on this panel. Again, Montgomery Wilson, who we see from CLS, Linda Gerald, Vincent Erlin, and Madeline Shikumba. Come forward. Thank you. Please identify yourself for the record and begin your testimony.
Am I first?
Good afternoon, Council. My name is Vincent Robert Erlin, Sr., and I'm 19 years old. Anybody believe that? No, I'm not. I'm 76 years old. My family has lived at 1718 Reed Street, from whence I was born. My neighborhood was mixed black and white. There are 3 black families left. My reason why I gave that background to you, I was born and raised here in Philadelphia. I went to all the schools, Smith School, Barrett, and South Philadelphia High School. And from there I was drafted into the military. But that's not why I'm here. I'm here because of the increase each year in my real estate taxes. My sister is 100% disabled. And the increase in my real estate taxes each and every year puts a burden on me and my financial situation. I'm 70-some years old. I doubt very seriously if I can go out and get a good paying job. But I feel like the rest of the black people in my area have been real estate financed out of their homes. I'm sorry, I have to say that. Not when I can look across the street from me and see a brand new structure goes up and parties and everything from the top of the roof to the bottom, cars parked everywhere where I can't park, okay? And not only that, my sister can't even get poles to park our car so we can take the groceries in. She has 100% disability and can't walk. You'll find you are the real estate proposal that goes before you today, and if I could have any bearing on it, is that this will stabilize my real estate taxes. When you got a gentleman making $30-some thousand a year and you're hitting for $3,000 and $4,000, that's a lot of food that's not in there. My last sister's surgery was 3 months ago. They took a bone out of her thigh and put it in the back of her neck. She's on opiates, believe it or not, because legal opiates, okay? But no one's going to hire me unless you guys are going to give me a job, okay? Right now, all right? I do get Social Security, okay? But I cannot afford it. The guys across the street are paying no taxes. And this hurts me because I fought for this country. Okay? I went to Vietnam for this country. Not only that, I worked with the race riots in this country. In this city, we had race riots, the whole 9 yards, and we stayed in our homes. I just want you to listen to someone that cares about Philadelphia. It's not New Bold, it's South Philadelphia. Okay? That's the way I feel. It hurts me to my heart not to have this bill not passed. I will do everything in my power. I will vote any way you have me to vote. But I want this bill passed. I want you to settle my real estate taxes and say, okay, you can die 10 or 15 years from now and your taxes will not increase. Thank you for listening to me.
I'm going to defer to my client and let Ms. Gerald speak.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I want to thank you for allowing me to speak to you today. I'm a homeowner. My name is Linda Gerald, and I'm a 68-year-old homeowner living at 1213 North 30th Street here in Philadelphia. I am here today to speak in support of the proposed amendments to the Longtime Owner-Occupied Program, or LOOP. I have owned my home since 2004, almost 15 years. But for the last 5 years, the city valued my house at $41,000. This year, there was a big change that almost knocked me off my feet. The city valued my house at $102,000 without repairs or anything done to the property. That is an increase of $61,000, more than double the old value. I have not begun to make any repairs yet or done anything to increase this property. Last year, praise the Lord, my taxes were about $153. This year, that would be over $860. My tax bill would be more than 5 times higher than it was last year. I cannot afford this. Like I said, I'm 68 years old, I'm retired, and I'm living on a fixed income. I cannot afford this property tax increase, but because my property value doubled instead of tripled, my lawyer says that I am not eligible for LOOP right now. My lawyer says that the proposed changes makes me eligible for LOOP and will allow the value of my house to be capped at about $61,000. Which would limit my property taxes to $854. This $6 difference may not seem like much at first, but if property values continue to go up, which I live in Brewery Town, my taxes will continue to rise each year. I'm here to help not only myself, but other seniors who cannot speak for themselves. Only the LOOP rules will protect me and them from future increases in our home values. I am here to ask City Council to amend the LOOP program to include more homes and to help seniors and other homeowners like myself. Thank you for your time.
Good
Good evening, members of the Finance Committee. My name is Monty Wilson. I'm an attorney with Community Legal Services. I feel like I should just say, what else do you need to know? And shut up. But I'll step in. I'll step in as the technician. Some of you know that Community Legal Services has been working to help homeowners who are struggling with their property taxes for years. When I started doing this in 2004, the big issue was payment plans and the ability to be delinquent and do something besides face a foreclosure. Was there a system in place to help people pay their delinquent taxes? That's how, through a long process, we came up with the UPA program. But that program, to get back to your question, Councilman Dom, was designed to help people who were struggling with delinquent taxes. Loop looks forward and says, what do I do about this year's current taxes, next year's current taxes? So it's really two different programs, apples and oranges. We solved that problem really effectively. And when AVI kicked in 2014, the Loop program, as Councilman Squila has pointed out, was designed to help people who got hit with 300% sticker shock and were suddenly facing an enormous 6 times, 5 times increase in their tax bill during that AVI period. I think Councilman Squila is completely correct. It's time to revisit the Loop program, maybe to deal with a slightly different problem, the problem of gentrification. And I actually would welcome a chance to sit down with Revenue and staff of City Council, if you're amenable to it, to talk about how we modernize the Loop program to offer people the protection they need when the hit isn't 300% all at once. As you heard from Ms. Gerald, she's not facing a 300% increase. So right now, today, she's not eligible for the program, but she's still facing a bill that's going to be 5 times bigger than it was for her last year. We have to decide as a matter of policy, is that something we want to deal with? I think the new issue for homeowners facing property tax delinquencies that's coming is assessments. I heard you say that earlier, Councilman, and I completely agree with you. When I started, it was payment plans. What we've seen in the last year, in my testimony, is that in 2018, we saw 430 people who came in seeking our advice, way up from 247 who came to CLS the year before. Not all of those people came in with problems with their assessments, but I can tell you anecdotally, absolutely, that is the new issue that is coming regularly to our office. And I can say to you that property tax problems are the #1 issue that comes into our office at CLS. We beat out welfare issues, we beat out employment issues, we beat out, believe it or not, problems with people seeking representation versus DHS. This is a growing issue. CLS completely supports the bill that you've proposed, and I think opening it up to try to do some negotiation to modernize the bill is an excellent idea. CLS has also proposed 3 ideas that we would like to see introduced into the bill, because I think this bill could go a couple steps further to help people. I sent our package of ideas out to Councilman Clark, Councilman Squila, and Councilman Johnson earlier. I had hoped to get this to the rest of you before the hearing, but obviously things happen quickly. I've left copies in the back room, at the back table. I will send it to the rest of you before the end of the day. Our 3 ideas basically are, right now, as the bill is currently written, you still have to have a 50% increase in 1 year to enter into the Loop program. We would ask you to consider a 5-year look-back period, so that if someone is going through gentrification over time and has a 50% increase over a period of 5 years, they also could be considered eligible for Loop. The second thing we'd ask you to consider is there is a problem with essentially the choice in the first year, which is what Ms. Gerald is facing, of when the first year, is it more beneficial for me to take the homestead exemption or to take Loop? And the fact is, in the first year, it's often more beneficial to take the homestead exemption and pass up that deadline to enter into Loop. But in the second year and the third year, as your assessments continue to grow up, you will essentially still only have the homestead exemption, and you will steadily, essentially, money your way out of Loop and lose that benefit. What that means is, over time, the homestead exemption will actually be worse for you than the Loop program will be. We need to do something, and our proposal was to take the calculation that you have to subtract the homestead exemption before you're eligible for Loop out of the statute. The last one is a simple fix. As we all know, this was originally designed to help people who were hit with that 300% sticker shock in 2014 because of AVI. Unfortunately, there are still homeowners, no offense, Ms. Gerald, but she's one of them, who still missed that deadline. If she had gotten loop back in 2013, she wouldn't be here today. I would ask council to extend the deadline to allow seniors to retroactively apply for the 2014 loop cap so that they can get the benefit of the program that they have brought up. To go with Councilman Dom's point about what's the cost of the program, I think that's one of the keys here. If the city has a cap on it, essentially if we know the amount of the city's liability, then these changes, we can plan for the future on what they will cost the city. This isn't just, well, we'll find out what it costs and whether it costs too much. You will be able to hold the city harmless and predict the amount of the expense each year. In light of that fact, in short, I would welcome a chance to work with council staff and the Revenue Department on modernizing Loop, but I fully support this bill and urge council to pass it. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Ms. Shikumba?
One quick question.
One question,
Mr. was just going to holler at us.
Mr. Wilson, one question for you before Ms. Shikumba.
Happily.
Thank you. Is there a way to be able to get a statistic on how many people have come to CLS for real estate compared to pre-AVI? Before AVI was initiated compared to now? How
You
many?
mean, could we get statistically the number of people who came into our office through intake for seeking local tax advice before 2013 and then post
Compared to
2013?
now?
Yes, we could do that easily.
I would like to see that.
I can't parse it between, tax problems versus assessment problems, but the overall, if you came in saying, I have a local property tax problem, yes, we could do that.
All right, that would be great. And also, one of your suggestions is added in here that you'll be able to apply to February 17th, 2021.
Yes.
People who were eligible now, were eligible in 2013. They can now reapply. Now, it won't be retroactive. They won't, from this point forward, they will be in loop.
They wouldn't be able to go back and seek a credit for the years that have gone by.
Right.
But yes, they would essentially be able to get their assessment
So-
in at the 2014 level and go forward at that level.
So far, one of your suggestions has been added to the amendments.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
How about the other two?
Yes. Councilwoman Sherelle Parker?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, when the Finance Committee moves into its public meeting, I wish to be recorded as voting aye on all bills. I have another meeting relative to the 9th District, but want to make sure that I'm on the record and recorded as voting aye.
Thank you very much. We're happy to do so. Ms. Shikumba?
My name is Madeline Shikumba. I represent the North of Washington Avenue Coalition. This is the first time I'm going to be going against the grain. I hate to do it, but I have to. As this bill is written right now, I cannot support it. It breaks my heart, but I cannot support it. This bill will not fix the problem that is hurting our poor people. This bill will only exacerbate it because people who should not get this will get it. And the cap will be reached very quickly, meaning more poor people will be left out in the cold. I've given you this form here. The reason why I've given you this is to show you that we're dealing with a broken system. Office of Property Assessment is a broken system that needs to be fixed, and fixed quickly. This is but one of many loops you're going to have to pass if this system is not fixed. The form I gave you deals with one block in my neighborhood, but this block is representative of many blocks in my neighborhood, and I live in the Graduate Hospital area. I did research, and it boggled my mind when I saw what was going on. These people are not paying actual value. You know what actual value is? the price you paid for your house. That's supposed to be the market value. You look at this form, and I put in there the years, because I picked out the years of people who've been there for more than 10 years. Since 2013, they have not paid actual value. It's been $100,000 or more below the actual value. In 2013, when my property jumped from $30,000 up to $300,000, their property, some of them, these are 3-story houses now. If you look at it, I thought I don't have it, give you one copy. Only jumped, what, $197,000? They were originally $50,000 or $60,000. Now they jumped to $197,000 in 2013. What the hell is going on? How could a 3-story house actual value be less than my little 2-story? In the same block and 2 blocks away. That's how bad it was. And if you look at this sheet, and I told you, if you look at 2002 Bainbridge, 2005 Bainbridge, 2044 Bainbridge, and so forth and so on, you'll see that these people have not paid actual value. And all of a sudden, I'll trace the history slowly for you. 2014, they jumped up. Okay? They jumped up to $300,000. They remained $300-some-thousand from 2014 to 2018. No increase. The only thing the Office of Property Assessment did was to make an adjustment between what you're paying for the land and what you were paying for the building. But the assessment remained the same. Then all of a sudden in 2019, they jumped up. And many of these people saw their properties jump from $385,000, like one guy, $385,000, I'm shaking, $380,000 to $792,000. Now he qualified for loot. I don't know what his income is, but he definitely qualified for loot under this special program. And there's a whole lot of them. This is just a sample of one block. You can select any block in my neighborhood and find a whole lot of these people have not been paying actual value, and now it has doubled because of all this increase from the new construction. How long do you think that cap is going to last with all these people looking for relief? I'm sorry. You have got to hold this bill. You can't pass it the way it is because you're affecting too many people, and the ones who need it will be helped the least and not the most. OPA did a lousy job. I'm talking about Office of Property Assessment. Has done a lousy job, and you still letting them get away with it. Naval Home is a perfect example. They got condos in there, several hundred condos. If you go to one particular one, and I'd like for you people to do that, it's called 500 Admiral's Way. Keep that. When you go home, go on your computer. 500 Admiral's Way. Not one single person in there, and it's over 100. Just one little condo building, and they got 10 of them, is paying actual value. Not a single one. And you come on, people. This is terrible. Not one of them paying actual value, okay? They paid $500,000, $275,000, and you know what the current assessment is? At the most, $421,900 for a condo. And they done paid $500,000, $600,000. That is actual value? And that's the actual assessment for 2019? Nah. I'm sorry. I asked you to put this bill on hold till you straighten out this mess, because there's too many people qualifying for this crash. Okay? What happened is that Office of Property Assessment knew what they were doing, because I talked to you, Squirrel, about it. I said, I know what else? People who got abatements may even qualify this mess, even though they'll say that the law says if you got an abatement, you can't get it. But the abatement was against what? The property. not the homeowner. Now, if you got your abatement in 1997, are they going to trace back to that property and find out whether or not you got an abatement? I doubt it. So therefore, you come up, you live on Bainbridge Street, you may have gotten an abatement. Your property jumps from $399,000 to up to $600-something thousand. You go down and apply. They're going to ask you if you got abatement before. Okay, so they say, okay, you qualify because your actual value doubled. But they didn't ask you if you had an abatement. And you don't say anything. And so therefore you qualify. Double dipping. And you think revenue got the workforce to check up on this stuff? Hell no. Maybe it might help save you a little bit if you take a suggestion when you rewrite this bill and do something else with it than what you're doing, and it really benefits the people who they're supposed to benefit with. My suggestion is that if you were an owner and you lived in your house and received an abatement while you owned this house during the 10 years, did you own this house during the 10 years and receive an abatement? Have that on their application so they can say yes or no. That's the only way you're going to find out. Okay? Otherwise, you're not going to find out. And then, if they want to lie, and you catch them later on in a lie, there should be some punishment. That is, pay them back taxes that you ain't been paying. Also, I don't want to talk about abatements now, because when that bill come up for abatements, I'll be ready for that too. But this is not the bill to be passed at this time. Yes, the bill must be a loop, some kind of loop thing, but not a constant loop bill, because the next bill will be another loop when OPA don't get their act together. We need OPA to get their act together, start assessing people who are receiving abatements. And I'm telling you, most abated properties are not at their actual value. You can go to any, I don't care what property you want to go to, any property in the city of Philadelphia that's receiving an abatement, look at it, and they will show you they're not paying the actual value. Test me on it. Try me. And you'll see I'm correct. Why are these people receiving an abatement not paying actual value? And they're already getting baited. And I said, when I looked at the Admiral Way, the same thing, not paying actual value. I said, Dad, what's going on here? These people not paying actual value and they're getting an abatement at the same time? What is OPA doing that they letting this happen? Okay, I'm tired of this. I'm tired of OPA being behind helping rich folks get richer off of our backs. And the next thing is, when you talk about this here thing that they want to help us with, they all go in the census tract to make it look powerful so they have passive. The census tracts that need help so they can get community-based money. And where's that community-based money going to go to? I don't know. Abatement money ain't came to me. How much of you got a part of that abatement money? And I'm talking about the soda tax too. I wonder how many of us benefit from that.
Point of information.
Point
You know
of
one thing, our
information
kids
on
are
the floor.
suffering.
Excuse me.
All right,
Ms.
I'm
Shikama.
sorry. I'm on my preacher wagon. You got that right.
Thank you.
I'm tired of this.
Thank
Okay?
you.
I'm tired of taking my school taxes for abatements and so forth.
All right.
This bill needs to be put on hold till we straighten this mess out.
Thank
So
you
that the
very
people who
much.
really need it, get it. And that you don't be using this as a way to give rich people another way to get out of paying taxes. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Shikama. Councilman Squilla.
Yeah, and I just want to say thank you all for your testimony, and Shikamba for your testimony and meetings and emails. You know, the bill is, and we know that if you are in an abatement, you cannot apply for loop. So that will be fine. If you had an abatement, a 10-year tax.
But how do you find out they got abatement?
Yeah, the city of Philadelphia has a list of all abated properties.
From 1997?
From 1997.
Okay, and that would be accessed by revenue when you come to apply?
Yes.
Well, why don't you put in there the statement I said, that the question have you had been in an abatement or received an abatement? Why don't you put that in there? But the point of the matter is,
we can
that
add
does
that.
not affect these people.
And we'll continue to work with you, Chicumbo, on some ideas.
No,
But
this bill has
listen,
got to be put
we
on hold.
agree OPA's assessment, and we did audits of them, and we know there's problems, and we got to try to fix that. The reason why we're doing some of these things and some of these safeguards is because of the problems that OPA is
No,
causing.
no, this is not a safeguard.
This
This
we're-
bill is not a safeguard.
we'll continue to
This
work
bill
with
needs to
you.
be put on hold.
We'll continue to work with you as this moves forward on amendments.
Can't hear you, Mr. Wilson. We can't hear you. Thank you very much. Thank you all very, very much. Thank you for your work on this.
Yeah,
We have
please do.
Ms. Hurst, Teresa McCormick. Is it Lee Friend and Charles Major next?
I know, but I'm sorry. They got to work it. They got to do better than that. I've never been opposed to anything.
Thank you all very
But
much.
this one I got to
Laverne Friend, thank you. And we're going to try to, if we can, to make our testimonies as short as possible because we still have to go back to the last committee hearing under Councilwoman Bass. So we ask if you all could be as expeditious, as short, as concise as you can, because we have to give the other committee back their time, their hearing time. Thank you very much. Ms. Hurst, please begin.
Who's first?
Identify
Good
yourself.
evening. My name is Arica Hurst. I'm a community organizer with One Pennsylvania, and I'm a Philadelphia resident. And a
Would you spell your first name?
Yes, Aurica.
Okay.
Last name Hurst.
Thank you.
And I just want to say thank you to the body that remained in the room. I just want to make it be known that Jannie, Blackwell, Squilla, Greenlee, Alan Dom, and David O are still in the room. Kenyatta Johnson has left, and most of his constituents are the ones complaining here, and we no longer have the rest of the body from the financial committee.
But he's not on this committee.
It doesn't matter. His
It's
constituents
not
are
his
here. This is my time to speak.
responsibility
Thank
to
you.
be here.
This is my time to speak. His constituents are here. I just want to make it known on the record that he walked out of the room. So, I just want to thank the city council body for doing a review of the OPA's office and providing recommendations to recruit new leadership for OPA office, including chief assessment officer and at least 3 deputy assessors with the assistance of a nationally recognized executive search firm. The recommendations to contract with a mass appraisal firm and firms to assist the increasing accuracy of annual assessments. So all these recommendations found online. I just want to thank the city council body for coming up with those recommendations, but we have more work to do. We have a lot more work to do. So this bill needs to be held because of the sign I'm holding right now. It says redlining. Where did all the black folks go? I'm 28 years old, and the city of Philadelphia is declining in owner-occupied housing. The suggestion that Councilman Dom proposed, that sounds a lot like reverse mortgages, and that predatory lending and that predatory buying of homes is the reason why we are in this mess today. We have no protections. And when I say we, I mean the black people that actually stayed in the communities after white flight. So it was 1/3 of us left here. The Fair Housing Act, 42 U.S. 3631, the Fair Housing Act was passed. And as we can see, we are having no protections in the city of Philadelphia for our seniors, for the families that were redlined in the communities when white flight was taking place. And right now, while there are suggestions for this bill, it needs to be on hold. So we suggest that the findings from the OPA hearings are out for the public review and that citizens are invited into negotiations with City Council and the Finance Committee on this bill. We suggest that we know the formula that OPA uses to assess the property. We suggest that the City of Philadelphia requests the assessments for OPA annually and make it known to the public, and that constituent services make it known to their constituents updates from the bill so that the people in the community to know what's going on with the amendments. Again, this bill is no way near ready to be passed, and we need to step back and stop trying to push things through. Like the gentleman stated earlier, since 1997, people have been receiving tax abatements, and we want to make sure there's a magnifying glass over this next bill that comes through to propose that loop be expanded. We want to also suggest that the appraisers be re-educated on assessing property for full market value, because I sat on the phone with a few of my seniors last night and we looked over data after block after block after block. Where did the black folks go? They're being pushed out. We are still dealing with the effects of redlining, 50 years post the Fair Housing Act being passed. We have to take a look at this. This is the city of Philadelphia, the home of brotherly love and sisterly affection. We cannot continue to push bills past because they sound good or look good. A lot of the people in the room, I'm here to speak for the people that are not only just here in the room, but the people who couldn't make it out during this weather. I'm here to speak for the people who cannot, will not, and do not speak up. I come from the city of Philadelphia, and I would like to keep this place as my home. I grew up in Southwest Philadelphia, where there is a declining home ownership. If you look at the reinvestment funds research and the Urban Institute's research, they tell you that there is a huge decrease in owner-occupied housing in the city of Philadelphia. And a lot of these people are the African-American black citizens in Philadelphia that were redlined in the communities. We need to make sure that we are reviewing our bills and making sure that there is hashtag a seat at the table for the people here in the room. And so citizens of Philadelphia that were kept inside these communities have a second chance of staying and to build legacy and to build generational wealth. What we're seeing right now are bills being pushed through and there is no protections for the residents in the community. We also suggest that there is a restorative justice that takes place. So I don't understand why there can't be a retroactive contributions if they still didn't meet their cap yet. I'm not understanding that, so you're gonna have to explain that to me. And I'm more than happy to give someone my contact with my, I have the information on this flyer. You could contact me so we could sit down and understand. I'll come here as a bridge of hope for the next generation. The people that stand next to me and the people that stand behind me are sick and tired of being sick and tired, and they have fought long enough. I'm 28 years old, and I'm standing up for the younger black generation. We want to stay in our communities. We want to stay in the city of Philadelphia. This is a national crisis, and I have much respect for the body in this room and for the people that are not in this room. And I know that if like minds get together, we can defend these citizens and the seniors that are here. So I just want to make a point to the findings of the OPA assessment that occurred. The only category of assessments that do meet industry standards are condominiums. I am not the first person to state this today. The people that are building and refurbishing and that are redeveloping, and we need to make it be known that the tax abatements are not only for the people that have done redevelopment, but have refurbished and that have rehabbed these condominiums or these old historic homes into condominiums. We need to make that be aware. Second thing, OPA is failing to meet 11 out of 18 responsibilities as determined by the city code, including failing to explain via OPA's website how the city calculated individual assessments. I didn't make this up. I got this from the city's website, okay? It's about reading and understanding. Now, I'm not a math major, but if I get 11 out of 18 questions wrong on a test, I failed. I did not do well on that test. I did not study. I didn't go to my study groups. I didn't ask my teacher for help. Ask your teachers for help. Your teachers are the community. You are representing us in the community. So ask your teachers for help. You see these citizens sitting next to me and behind me, they will teach you the way if you do not know the way. All right? Properties valued under $100,000 are
We're going to have to move on. You'll have to tie up your remarks.
This is my final point. This is my final point. I'm sorry, ma'am. So properties valued under $100,000 are overassessed, meaning those property owners are paying more than their fair share in property taxes. My name is Arka Hurst, and I'm more than ready and willing to speak to you about adjustments into holding this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. McCormick, thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Teresa McCormick, and I live in the Point Breeze area. Recently, I became a senior, and my concern is this. I ask that you hold this bill. And the reason why I'm asking you to hold this bill is because when we as seniors last night reviewed those houses that were either new development or that were rehab homes, they were getting more of a break. For example, when I came here 2 weeks ago for the assessment, I explained to you that on the 2100 block of Wharton Street, okay, there are only 6 families left out of 30 as the original homeowners. The new homeowners, which are white, are receiving the same assessment value as I, but they paid $400 plus for their homes. I am being reassessed at $121,000. Why are they being reassessed as well as $121,000? It doesn't make sense. We asked you again to go over the OPA department because they are seriously going after us as we feel as us as African Americans that live in our homes. But yet we're going to put this bill through before we fix what was already broken with OPA. We also asked for, in terms of the appeals, look again and check the appeals. I'm down at the appeal office almost every other week. I have not yet seen a city council person to represent the citizens to see what goes on down at OPA. You're only reading what they're telling you. The next thing is also the condos. We've always complained about they're not paying their fair shares. And when we looked again, they're being reassessed undervalued. When you said that in terms of the different programs, are you asking for the people to bring in, to disclose their incomes? Right now, as I sat down and sit down in the municipal service building, no, they're not. And no one's paying attention. You're not listening what's going on at all. We're asking for you to please look at what's going on at the OPA to be reassessed before we consider doing this loop program. Because what's going to happen is that the people who definitely need it, they will not receive it. If you did not know, the reverse mortgages, most of the people, the seniors in my neighborhood, went and got the reverse mortgages to help them pay for their taxes. They did not know that what happens is that if you do not stay up and current with your taxes, if you're not current with your utilities, if you get a violation from L&I, guess what? The reverse mortgage takes your homes. So I have seniors now that is homeless. You guys don't get it, and you're still not listening. You're still not listening. This is horrible. So we're asking you to please wait on this loop bill. Fix the assessment department first, then we go into doing loop, because then we'll have more money to help the families that need it.
Councilman O.
Yes, thank you very much. I'd like to just kind of explain, if I could. So I did introduce a bill, I think it was last week or the week before, that says basically that because the assessments are, in my opinion, illegal and inaccurate, that we skip this year the 10.5% increase and go back before that. That bill was just introduced. Before that, I think last year, there was another bill. The reason I'm bringing that up is not to make excuses. What I want to say is any bill introduced takes a long time to process. So we do have bills in. I don't know if it'll pass or not, but that's what you're advocating. But if we don't act on this bill, people won't have any help. You know, what I'm saying is I know you want to hold it, but if you hold it, none of these bills are going to go forward, and then what happens is even though this bill is not perfect, it at least offers some help to people. I hope my bill passes. I hope you'll support it. I hope we will all kind of address these obviously improper, inaccurate overassessments of properties. I don't think we should move forward on it, but as much as I believe that, my concern is if I don't vote for this bill, the people out there won't have any help. So I rather help people than not help people, and I'm agreeing with everything you said. There is a bill in. Maybe we can work on if that one isn't a good bill, these other council people introduce bills. They do care about home ownership. They care about the people in there. We disagree, of course, at times, but we also agree that we all agree these assessments are not accurate. They are hurting people. They're driving people out their neighborhoods. We have to do something. But the issue that is arising is we don't assess the property. That's actually another branch of government, and so we're trying to introduce legislation to address that so that we can have control over that. I just want to explain that as much as what you're saying, if we don't pass Councilman Squilla's bill that at least helps some people in some way, there won't be any help for people with these improper, overly high property assessments and the resulting taxes. So it's difficult for me to hold this bill as much as I agree with you, because I rather help some people and keep working on what you want, fix the whole system, throw out those no good assessments, make sure it's done right, but we have to try to help people right now. Thank you.
Can I just, you made your comment, but what you need to do, so you're putting the cart before the horse. Until we fix the assessment on what they're doing, okay, then you come back, because what's happening, if we put this bill in, then that those people that don't need the help, are not going to get it, because now you're taking more of that money. So if you have $50,000, I'm just using an example. If you have $50,000 and now those people, like on my particular block of Wharton Street, where they paid $400,000 for their homes, they qualify for this. So then that means that the other people that really need it, the money won't be there for them. That's what I'm trying to explain to you. Hold it for a minute. I'm not saying never do it, but hold up for a minute until we fix the assessment, which is very, very broken. Because we sitting back here, and as I said 2 weeks ago, you was here, Councilman Ho. As I said, and I explained to you, I live on Wharton Street. I gave you Federal Street. I gave you Reed Street. Those homes there are undervalued. And I'm paying more taxes than they are. So that's what I'm saying. Wait, hold it. Because now as a senior, I can't afford to pay $400 more right now. No, I can't. So that's all I'm saying. It may be great, but wait until we get this fixed first, and then come back and say, all right, because you might come up and say that you need more loot. But right now, you're giving them that don't need it, then you're giving them help.
Okay, so I do understand what you're saying. I don't want to belabor the point, because I got your point. I just want you to know that we can do legislation, and it takes a long time for it to get to this. OPA is not something we can fix without a bill. The Office of Property Assessment is under the mayor's office. That's who fixes that. We would have to pass legislation, and so it's not going to get fixed in a month or 2 or 3
Councilman
or
Ho,
even
I
6.
hear you. They know, all the councils see me here, at least from the last, it's going on since 2012 since I've been here. And I've told them then, before it got totally out of control now. And I'm not waiting another 8 years, especially when I see my seniors who are losing their homes and are in shelters because of this mess. So now you need to wait and get the assessment straight so that we'll have enough funds that'll help more people on the loop. Because right now, my neighbors that pay $400,000, guess what? They qualify for loop 2 now.
Thank you very much, Ms. Laverne Friend, and then Charles Major. After that, we will have our last committee.
Okay. Good afternoon. My name is Laverne Friend, and I live in the Graduate Hospital area. An example just came to me just the other day, because I'm always talking in my community, ringing the bells, calling people on the phone, and finding out. Now, I did hear the commissioner say that just left here that it was 114 events. I'd like to know, where were they? Did anybody know about any events? I'm talking to people every day in the Graduate Hospital, know nothing about Loop, that never even heard of UPA. none of that, absolutely none. So it wasn't from the inception. We understand that we were never considered during the inception of AVI back in 2012. We are, and I'm one of them, that's confused, frustrated, and don't really understand how the system was structured. We have heard that the assessments are unfair and just downright illegal. And I think Councilman Owa has spoke with you, and that's the words that you used. You used the word to me, the assessments are illegal, about 2 weeks ago. And I think, Madam Councilwoman Blackwell, you had said something when the bill was being read off. It says something about what are the conditions under the bill. And I'd like to ask you all, what are the conditions under this bill? Because as I tried to read it, it's hard to understand for me. So what are the conditions under this bill? I just ran into a gentleman, his mother just died 3 weeks ago. I made some calls up here, and I come to find out he will not be able to qualify for LOOP simply because prior to his mother's death, she did get the LOOP program. But now he will not be able to get the LOOP because we were told that his taxes in 2018-19 have not went up 3 times as high. And we do understand the help that you tried to give from the 150% of the area medium income and brought it down to 50. So we understand the help that you're trying to do, but people are suffering. People are suffering. I don't see that 55% of the real estate taxes going to the schools from the tax abaters. The tax abaters, as you've heard, are getting help. And that is really crazy. That's absolutely crazy in my view. I don't know all these numbers and the statistics and all that, but I know what I see. I see that in my neighborhood, I was born and raised in South Philadelphia for 63 years, and we are the minority there because we have been gentrified out, simply pushed out. And then we're not getting in as much help as we really need to have. These assessments, somebody got to do something with these assessments. Somebody have to talk to the mayor. He needed to be down here to listen to us. He really needed to. And I do recommend highly that some people out from the community would be a part of the conversation. I really recommend that very high because we live there. We live there. That's our home. And I don't intend to go anywhere. I'm trying to stay in my home. I don't personally have that serious problem yet, but I'm talking to people every day that does. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Friend. Mr. Major, Charles Major.
Yes, ma'am. My name is Charles Major. I'm a South Philly resident, a lifetime South Philly resident. I've been a committeeman for some years. Currently, I'm not a committeeman because of the new faces in the neighborhood. You know, I was committeeman in the 30 Ward 17th Division. Since the Naval Home, you can't really campaign or do anything in there to get a vote. So you lose by 3 votes because you can't get all the votes in the Naval Home because of the people in the Naval Home. They become committeemen themselves. But in the meantime, I'm still active with the neighborhood. Everybody still knows me as a committeeman. They come to me about different things. And when you talk about the AVI, if you go down to the AVI, the guy who signs you in down there, he would tell you that I'm a frequent flyer because I go down there with a lot of the senior neighbors to help them with their problems. And most of the time we're successful because they know about it and everything. But as far as the LOOP program, I worked with Councilman Johnson at the initiation of the LOOP program, and we worked on it, and it was successful for what we needed to do. And also, after the LOOP program, we found out, I'm one of the ones that went back to Councilman Johnson's about the entangled titles and deeds in the neighborhood because everything is messed up because people lived in homes in 1958, their grandparents bought the home, and they lived there. So they lived there, and when it was time for the LOOP, they couldn't get it, and we kind of solved that problem. Now we're here, and I hear all the people here talking, and this young 28-year-old lady, she reminds me of me when I was younger, you know, getting up and expressing herself. She seems to be very, very intelligent, and they're all right on key of what's going on, and I hear all the hidden things in it. I hear one of the councilmen say, oh, well, the people who have a tax abatement, they won't qualify for a loop. But how about the houses that were rebuilt for hundreds of thousands of dollars that had a tax abatement, and the person who took the tax abatement out, who never was from here at the beginning, is gone? Will these people qualify for the tax for this new loop program? And my understanding of the tax abatement is that once the 10 years is up, then this property comes above board to give more money to the schools, more money to the city, and that's the way that's supposed to work. But I'm not going to revisit all the things that they said, but, you know, it's only right, you know, that this bill be tabled until you can talk to people. You need to talk to people like me. You need to talk to people like the people at the table here. There's a lot of people that like to talk about this bill. And as far as Councilman O saying, well, we need to sign it and put it on the table now, if you sign it and put it on the table now, it's like in business. You can't go back on it. So there's no need to sign it and put it on the table now. And I'm asking the council people who are on the committee to ask this vote to be on hold until further notice. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We now have one last committee: Tiffany Green, Victoria Fernandez, Barbara Carey, and Cora Turpin. Thank you very much. We welcome all of you. This is our final hearing. If there's anyone else who needs to testify, see someone here, would you identify yourself and begin while they're coming forward?
It's working?
Okay.
I have my presentation here in writing. Thank you.
All right.
I have my presentation here in writing so you can have a copy. I have lived in Philadelphia since 1957. My residences have been the Village, that's North Philly, Yorktown, that's around Temple, and since 1977, Northern Liberties. And my history as a community activist spans 62 years and includes the sit-ins to integrate Woolworths as a teenager in the 1950s, patrolling the streets with crisis intervention to quell the riots of the 60s, picketing with former Representative W. Curtis Thomas to close nuisance bars and other unwanted establishments in Northern Liberties in the 70s, fighting for quality schools with the Philadelphia Federation of Teachers in the 80s, bringing modern technology to Overbrook High School in the 90s. The list goes on. I have stayed in Philadelphia in spite of gang violence, police brutality, and school closings. I thought I'd seen it all until the actual value initiative on which real estate taxes are based became a law. The reality is that the AVI is based on construction costs. When developers who receive great tax exemptions and incentives to build expensive and modern structures in neighborhoods, this increases the real estate value, and they continue to go up. To active workers seeking economic compensation to offset these rising costs, it's a possibility. But to retired workers on fixed incomes, the AVI is a path to homelessness and foreclosures. The burden of these AVI taxes are placed against former city workers who were required to buy homes in less than desirable neighborhoods to maintain their employment and to stem the tide of the middle-class flight from this city in the 1970s. We stayed. Our neighborhoods became desirable. Then City Council passed the AVI for homeowners that is a mathematical and economic burden / impossibility for all citizens on fixed incomes to meet on a long-term basis. The Concerned Senior Citizens, of which I am a part, is circulating a petition, which I have here in my hand, to freeze the AVI for homeowners over age 65 and regardless of income. Whatever the obstacles, we need for City Council to join us in the effort to save our homes. As a committee person for over 30 years, I know of the power of working together. Nothing is impossible. Please help us. The number of foreclosures in Philadelphia increases even as we speak, and the AVI will cause a tragic end to its long-term citizens who have worked all their lives for the benefit of this city. As an addendum, I would like to say to Councilman Squilla, I notice that I don't see many of your constituents here, and those river wards also are suffering from this very problem. I don't know why they're not here. That Kensington River Ward area, because it's right next to Northern Liberties, is also suffering under this. And while this is not a really integrated looking group, it should be. The kind of thing we're talking about for our senior citizens crosses all races. It is economic, and we are losing. They'll be here for the budget hearing, by the way. I'll see to it.
Thank you. And I agree, and they are and they support that, and we understand that, and we will continue to work with that aspect.
And I don't know why they're not here, sir.
Well, it has nothing to do with this bill,
I don't know why they're not here, sir.
because it has nothing to do with this bill. Everything you mentioned doesn't have anything to do with this bill. But we agree, we need to work on
And
that.
how high their taxes have gone, Joe. That
Right.
has a lot to do with this bill.
Right, and we will
You're
continue.
in one of the gentrified areas. That's why I can't understand why they're not here. Is there someone who can just
People, this hearing is specifically on this bill, but if it comes up on the other things, they will be here, believe me, because they have community meetings.
Thank you. Tiffany Green?
Let me speak. Okay, good afternoon.
Thank you.
I'm opposing the bill for the simple fact that tax abaters should not be allowed to have loot. This is about protection. Now, when we come down here and ask for protection, it falls on deaf ears. When we ask for protection regarding the character of our community, which that bill is coming up, 180973, I want you all to, take a look at it soon after it's amended. We're asking for protection. And as Councilman O said, he wants to protect people. Well, we want protection too. But this type of protection is not fair. This is unfair, okay? Because number one, I don't think we're really looking at this from a serious standpoint of tax abaters that came in back in 2005 and before that, because they would qualify. But I was looking at a particular real estate website, and I just want to read something real quick. In fact, one investor recently did analysis and determined that the $350,000 they invested 10 years ago in a condominium is worth about $1 million today and produces about an income of $60,000. But I also want to say if a person purchased a condominium around $350,000 today, back 10 years ago, it would be worth about $1 million. Also on this website, it goes on to say, many real estate investors who I have helped are no longer gainfully employed, either due to retirement or old age. Yet they happily rely on the real estate for their supplement, their income stream to finance their lifestyle. The question is, when they go to fill out the application for the loop, will we be considering investments that these people have made? Will we be considering investments that these people may have? because some of these people who moved into the condominiums back in 2005 and 4 at the height of the condominium rush for Philadelphia may have investments, supplemental income that's coming in, but they may not put it down on the application because they're elderly or they're older now and they might be living on a limited income. And right now, when you lower that down to 150, that makes them qualify for that. That is not fair to us, because at this particular point, this system has to be fixed, because we're not dealing with one particular group that I feel needs to be looked at, and that is the real estate association. Because of the fact that right now Smith School was sold by the School District of Philadelphia, who claim they love our children, to a developer, and he is just listed his first listing for $795,000, a townhouse in the middle of the schoolyard. We have a townhouse in the middle of a schoolyard for $795,000. Do you know what a $795,000 does to a community? It's called a wipeout. It affects the rents. It will affect the tax assessments. It will affect the whole area. It would make the whole area too expensive to live in. It is not fair that we don't qualify for both Homestead and Loop, but yet you want the tax abaters to qualify for Loop. That is not fair at this particular point, and it should not be allowed. We're saying at this point that if you're going to continue to do that, then we deserve a tax abatement. Because even though you're giving us Loop, we're still required to pay our taxes. We have not received a 100% tax abatement. We should be given a tax abatement, and we should not have to pay either. Because Mr. Dom asked, what is the cost? The reality of it is the cost is that those people that he specifically helped that purchased at $350,000 is that their investment right now is worth $1 million. And anybody who has an investment property for $1 million should not qualify for Loop. I think this bill needs to be held up. It needs to be put to the side, because if you continue on, then this is really an unfair process, and I think that this is where the trickery of the language come in. The reason why it's not crowded down here, because this bill is trickery, and that you don't understand quite what is happening here, and that you are covering the tax abaters when you lower the income on this bill, and that itself is not right. It's totally unfair.
Thank you, Ms. Green. Next, we have Victoria Fernandez.
Yes.
Thank you. And finally, we're going to have Barbara Carey. That will be the last person to testify today. Thank you.
I was born and raised here in Philadelphia. I live in the graduate area. When I retired, I thought that everything would be fine, that paying my taxes would be about the biggest thing I had to do. Well, it was true. Now, in 2012, when I got my assessment for my home, and I've been in this house 40 years, and I got my assessment for this house for $500,000. And I said, well, whose house is this? You know, I said, can't be mine, because I didn't pay anywhere near that to buy this house. So, went to court, they lowered it, and then the judge asks me, should it be lowered? I said, yes, it should. Even lower than what they did. I said, this is not actually what based on what I paid, which is taxes. And I said, this is ridiculous. So they lowered it a little, and then he said, the point to where he lowered it, he said, it will go no lower. I said, well, why wouldn't this assessment go any lower? He said, because of the area where you live. So my house is not worth that much, but the area is. So I'm paying all these taxes. I can't, it's absolutely, my taxes went from like $600 to $3,000 something. What in the world could I do that on a retirement? And it's just getting ridiculous. This bill does not need to pass. It's not helping any of us. We, the people, I've worked all my life, and I've been a school teacher, and I know that all the years that I've worked, it's ridiculous. These taxes haven't helped the schools. They have done nothing. And the black schools are just like it was back in 1890. It has gotten no better. That's how bad they are. You know, you talk all this, and they do nothing. The money, the mayor's doing nothing with the money. It's just getting ridiculous, you know? We just work and work and work. And we need now this bill to not pass until OPA is been, yes, thank you. Because OPA needs to be put together. It's ridiculous. And those of us who have worked all our lives and lived in the neighborhood, and I've been, like I said, I've been in that neighborhood, I've been in that house 40 years, I've been in the neighborhood 50 years.
She just quit from.
And it's just ridiculous. I've worked on the community, worked with the community since going back 50 years, you know? And it's just ridiculous now. The taxes and all that we are paying is something. The people, I should say, that work every day like I did, everything is on our backs. I mean, we pay for everything. When we don't pay, they put a lien on us. They put a penalty on us. I got to pay to park in front of my own house on a public street. I mean, how many more taxes do you intend to put on us? The liens, the penalties, if you don't pay. And then one of the councilors talk about, the senior can get a loan. So if you die, what are you going to do? So your heirs who inherit your property got more bills to pay? The inheritance tax will kill them alone. I mean, the inheritance tax will kill if I left it to my child. How in the world would they be able to get together $300,000 to pay for this? That's what it's going to run or more. And God forbid if I should live 10 or 20 more years, good grief. I may as well just hand you the house. So this bill needs to just be restudied and go over because it's not helping us. It's helping the rich, as it always has. We never get a breather. And anytime the judge can tell me, like we all know, it's the area, we in trouble because the whole city is becoming the area now. There's no breathing anywhere in this city.
Thank you. Thank you. Ms. Carey, Barbara Carey.
Afternoon, City Council members. My name is Barbara Carey. I'm a homeowner. I live in the Overbrook section of the city. I'm 75 years old, and I'm on a fixed income because of this tax assessment, and it seems like that they're not fair. The formula is, you don't have a good formula. It seems like you're discussing it. Don't we have any details like saying, well, we're going to do this or that? No, we discuss. What are you going to do? I feel like I need to talk with someone one-on-one to tell me about the different programs. Now, I have the LOOP program. After listening to everybody today, I'm not sure what the LOOP program is. It's really, and I need you to tell me who, one-on-one, do I go to my city council person saying, hey, look, explain it to me from A to Z, the beginning. Because I really don't know. But the thing is, I think we should freeze everything or put a hold on things until we can get this formula right. Because are they going to assess come back and reassess the properties before we pay our taxes, or do we pay our taxes now? I'm kind of confused. But the thing is, I think we should put everything on hold until we decide on a good formula of what's best for the Philadelphians in the city here.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. We thank all of you for being here, all of the testimony. We understand that the president has heard you and has agreed to maintain the conversation that these bills may be helpful, but in terms of all that you say about assessment, all of us are happy to continue that conversation. Having said that, we're going to enter our public meeting, but don't despair. We did hear you, and we are interested in making life better. Thank you. Chair recognizes Councilman Greenlee for a motion on the amendment to Bill number 181103.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I offer an amendment to Bill number 181103. A copy of the amendment has been circulated to members of the committee, and I move for the adoption of the amendment.
It has been moved and properly seconded that the amendment to Bill number 181103 be approved. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries, and Bill number 181103 has been amended. The chair again recognizes Councilmember Greenlee for a motion on Bill number 181103 as amended.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move that Bill number 181103 as amended be reported from this committee with favorable recommendation, and further move that the rules of council be suspended to permit first reading of this bill at the next session of council.
It has been moved and properly seconded that Bill number 181103 as amended be reported from this committee with a favorable recommendation, and further move that the rules of council be suspended so as to permit first reading of this bill at the next session of council. All those in favor of the motion will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it, and the motion carries, and Bill number 181103 is amended. Bill will be reported from this committee with a favorable recommendation and a request that the rules of council be suspended so as to permit first reading at our next session of council. That concludes our meeting. We note that Councilwoman Parker also left her vote, and our committee hearing will be adjourned. I thank all the members who are here and all those who have come to testify, and call back Councilwoman Bass to complete the health hearing. There's another hearing to be completed, and we ask her to come back so that she might do it, and thank her and apologize for taking so much time. Thank you.